He moved from behind slow drawn out, like he was trying to feel everything at once, and I didn't stop him. I welcomed it. My palm braced against the cool edge of the countertop, my body slightly bent, his chest pressed against my back. His breath faltered warm and uneven against the base of my neck. One of his hands gripped my hip, while the other slid along my side, fingers trembling like he didn't trust himself to hold me. I let my head fall forward, closing my eyes as the weight of him pushed into me. His body stilled just long enough to whisper something I didn't catch, and then he rocked forward again, slow, deliberate. I felt him shake. Not from nerves, from how badly he was holding back. I arched slightly, felt the shift of pressure. My breath left me in a sound I didn't mean to make, and I felt his hand tighten around my side in response. The rhythm was unsteady. Too much then, not enough. A kind of intimacy that was more about surrender than anything technical. My skin burned everywhere he touched and everywhere he didn't. I could feel how hard he was trying to stay quiet, how close he was to breaking, and still I greeted him, with my body, with everything I didn't say. He choked out. I shouldn't. I nodded. I know. But I didn't ask him to stop. His body pressed deeper. I gasped, not from pain, from the weight of what we were doing. The total horrifying knowledge that we wouldn't be able to take it back. And I didn't want to. I never imagined I'd cross this line. Not like this. Not with him. Not in a kitchen that wasn't mine, bent over a marble counter that still smelled faintly of disinfectant and Sunday roast. But here I was, 39 years old, divorced. No kids. No one waiting for me at home. Just a stretch of days that felt like background noise, like the static that fills your head when you try too hard to pretend you're fine. I was staying at my best friend's house for the week while she was overseas. She'd asked me to check in on things: water, the plants, grab the mail, feed the cat. I said yes because I had nothing better to do. Because I liked her kitchen. Because her house was full of life even when she wasn't in it. She didn't mention that her younger brother would be dropping by. He was supposed to be there just once to pick up some storage boxes from the garage. That turned into twice. Then dinner. Then a movie. Then tonight. He was 10 years younger than me. 29. Tall. Hands always a little calloused, like he worked with them. He used to be the scrawny kid who followed us around during summer barbecues and begged us to watch him do cannonballs. Now he was a man I couldn't look at for too long without feeling heat curl somewhere I didn't want to admit. He'd come by to grab something. I'd been cleaning the fridge in a worn tank top and soft cotton shorts. He asked if I wanted to split a bottle of wine he'd found on the counter. I said yes. It started simple. Talking. Teasing. Me poking fun at the way he still cracked his knuckles when he was nervous. Him pointing out that I still stirred my drink in slow circles, like I was waiting for something that never showed up. And then it happened. I reached for the bottle. He stepped behind me, and I didn't move. Not when his hand brushed my waist, not when his chest hovered so close. I could feel the heat coming off him in waves. He didn't ask permission. He just leaned in, and I didn't say no. What would you do if your best friend's younger brother touched you like that? If he reached for you, not as a kid, not as family, but as a man, and you felt every ounce of it in your knees, would you stop him? Or would you hold the edge of the counter and brace yourself for something that would ruin you? Because I didn't stop him. I let it happen, and now his breath was on my skin, and his hands were under my shirt, and every inch of me felt like it had been lit from the inside out. I shouldn't be here, he murmured, voice tight. I looked over my shoulder, met his eyes, then go. He didn't move. His hand slid lower. His body followed. And I let him in completely. The pressure, the nearness, The heat of him, it was too much and not enough all at once. Every slow thrust made me ache more. Every groan into my neck made me want to turn around and say it out loud. I've never felt this alive. When it ended, he stayed close, chest against my back, breathing hard. His arms slipped around my waist, and we stood there in silence, both of us knowing what we'd done, both of us not ready to let go. If you're still with me now, still following this confession, then you understand why I'm telling it. Because this story doesn't end here. It gets messier, riskier, more real. So make sure to subscribe to my channel so I can continue bringing you more fascinating true stories like this one. And don't forget to watch this video till the end and like the video, because this story is going to be incredibly interesting. Please hit the like button to show your support. The morning after, I sat at her kitchen table, pretending to scroll my phone while he made coffee like it was any other day. Like his hands hadn't been all over me just hours earlier. Like his breath hadn't caught in my ear while I held onto the counter and let him in deeper than I'd ever planned to let anyone again. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that swelled between two people who'd just done something that couldn't be undone. He set a mug in front of me without a word. I didn't look up. Thanks. He sat across from me, exhaled slow. You okay? I nodded. But I wasn't. Because the truth was, I felt everything. Every inch of what we did. Not just physically, but emotionally too. The shame. The hunger. The way my skin still tingled where his fingers had curled under the hem of my shirt. He stirred his coffee 3 times, then set the spoon down like he couldn't think of what to say next. I was the one who broke the silence. We need to pretend last night didn't happen. He didn't answer right away, and when he finally did, it wasn't with agreement. I don't think I can. I looked up. He was staring straight at me, jaw-tight hands clenched together like he was trying to hold in something big. I knew what he meant, because I couldn't either. I never meant to want him. Not the little brother of my closest friend. The boy I used to help babysit when we were all younger. The one who used to call me Miss Jess and sneak sips of our cocktails when no one was looking. But he wasn't a boy anymore. He was a man. One who looked at me like he saw something everyone else had forgotten was there. Who touched me like I still mattered. And that scared the hell out of me, because I hadn't felt that in years. I'd been divorced for 3 years. No kids. My ex-husband and I had simply unraveled. No big drama, just years of not being seen. Of eating dinner in silence. Of feeling like a body in a house instead of a woman in a home. When the marriage ended, I told myself I'd focus on myself. Rebuild. Reclaim something. But months blurred into each other. Friends stopped calling as often. Everyone had kids, families, soccer schedules, responsibilities. And I had leftovers in the fridge and a bed that never felt warm enough. When my best friend Hannah asked if I'd watch her place for a week while she flew to Barcelona for work, I said yes before she finished the sentence. I told myself it was to help her. Truth was, I wanted out of my apartment. Out of my routine, out of the version of me I'd become. What she didn't mention was that Ryan, her brother, would be dropping by. Just ignore him if you're around, she'd said in a voice note. He's harmless. Probably grabbing some old tools or boxes. I hadn't seen him in almost 2 years. Not since the funeral. Their mother's passing had shattered them in different ways. Hannah shut down. Ryan disappeared. I'd caught glimpses of him since at family barbecues, holiday drop-ins, but nothing stuck. Nothing told me he'd grown into this. The man who walked into that kitchen last week wasn't the kid I remembered. He had stubble now, broader shoulders, eyes that looked like they'd lived through things, and the way he hugged me just a little too long, just a little too tight, made something catch low in my stomach. He said he remembered the way I used to braid his sister's hair while blasting Madonna and teasing him for hiding candy under the couch cushions. I said he looked taller. He laughed and said, "Maybe you just got shorter." That's how it started. We laughed too much over a bottle of wine, sat a little too close on the couch. I didn't realize how often he touched me lightly, casually, until I found myself looking forward to it. A brush of fingers when he passed me the remote, his knee knocking against mine when he shifted his weight. It wasn't sudden. It was a slow, steady unraveling. The kind that doesn't feel like danger until you're standing in the middle of it, and now sitting across from him in her kitchen, trying to pretend like I hadn't just let him into my body. I realized something terrifying. I didn't feel regret. I felt seen, craved, touched in a way I hadn't been in years. That scared me more than anything, because if I couldn't regret it, how was I ever going to stop? After that morning, we didn't touch again. Not for 4 days. But the space between us buzzed like a live wire every second we were near each other. He stayed later each time he dropped by the house, said he was organizing the attic, then the tools, then suddenly the backyard. I knew it was an excuse. He knew I knew, but neither of us said it out loud. The tension didn't fade. It sharpened. One afternoon I was wiping down the kitchen table when he walked in from the backyard. His shirt was clinging to his chest, sweat darkening the collar. He grabbed a bottle of water, leaned back against the counter, and watched me without speaking. I kept my eyes on the cloth in my hand. "You always clean when you're nervous?" he asked. "I'm not nervous," I replied too fast. He smirked, cracked open the bottle. Right. The air between us thickened. He didn't move. I didn't either. Just his breathing. And mine. Then a loud crash from outside broke at the neighbor's trash can toppling in the wind. I jumped. He laughed softly like the tension had snapped just enough for him to breathe again. He left soon after. But that night I found his sweatshirt draped over the back of a chair. It smelled like him. Clean detergent, grass, a faint trace of cologne. I didn't give it back. The next evening he didn't come. I told myself I was glad, that it gave me room to think, to recalibrate. But I kept glancing at the door like a fool. When he showed up the next day, I tried to be indifferent. I was baking something I hadn't done in years. There was flour on my cheek, and music playing low on the Bluetooth speaker. I thought I looked too ridiculous for anything to happen. He didn't think so. "You always bake when you're trying to avoid things?" he asked, stepping close. "No," I said. "That's what wine's for." He smiled. It was the kind of smile that made me feel like a woman again, not just someone waiting for her life to start over. He stepped behind me too close. I froze. He didn't touch me, just leaned over, slow reached for the cinnamon on the shelf, and said, voice low, "You missed a spot." I turned to look at him. "Where?" His eyes dropped to my cheek, then lifted. He reached up slow, and brushed the corner of my mouth with his thumb. I didn't move. The silence between us became unbearable. He pulled his hand back. He started, then shook his head. "I don't know what I'm doing anymore." "Me neither," I said, and it came out too soft, too honest. He didn't kiss me, not yet. But he lingered. That night he texted, "Do you ever think about it?" That night I stared at the screen, then typed, "I can't stop." He replied, "Then tell me when I can see you again." I didn't answer, but the next day I wore the soft blue tank he'd looked at too long once. We pretended that we weren't watching each other in reflections, pretended our hands didn't accidentally meet more often than they should, pretended he didn't brush my lower back when he passed behind me, that I didn't lean into it, pretended we weren't thinking about the same thing at the same time. One evening I sat out on the deck after dinner. It was quiet, warm. The kind of twilight that stretches out and makes you feel things you don't want to feel. He came outside too, sat beside me, close enough to feel the heat coming off him, not close enough to touch. "Do you regret it?" he asked quietly. I took a breath. Let it out. Not in the way I should. He turned to look at me. "I think about your face when we were in the kitchen," he said. I swallowed. "Don't." His hand was suddenly on mine. Not demanding, just resting, like he couldn't stop himself from reaching for me anymore. I looked down at our fingers, then up at him. Our faces were inches apart. His breath hitched. "Say it." "Say what? That you want me to stop?" I didn't. Instead, I leaned forward just barely. His forehead touched mine, and we stayed there, suspended. One breath, one heartbeat away from doing it again. It happened the next night. He hadn't planned to stay. I hadn't planned to let him. But the storm came fast, thunder thick and rattling, the kind that shook the windows and made the air feel close. We were in the living room, both pretending to be invested in a documentary neither of us could recall the name of. The lights flickered, then cut out completely. I got up to find a flashlight. He followed. I opened the hallway closet and reached up blindly, feeling around the top shelf. The flashlight fell into my hand just as his body pressed close behind me. Neither of us spoke. His breath was on my neck. Slow. Unsteady. I turned around to pass him the light, but the look on his face made my hand freeze in midair. It wasn't hunger. It was something else. Something raw. Something desperate. His hand came up hesitant, like he wasn't sure I'd let him. Fingers hovered at my jawline before finally landing. His thumb brushed the corner of my mouth. "I can't keep pretending this didn't happen," he whispered. I closed my eyes, felt the words ripple through me. "I know." He leaned in. This kiss was different. Slower. Sadder. Like he already knew what it would cost. I didn't pull back. I kissed him back harder. The flashlight hit the floor, forgotten. We stumbled toward the nearest room mine. Our mouths didn't part once. His hands found my waist. My hips lifted the hem of my shirt. My fingers gripped his back, tracing the muscle under his skin. When he laid me down, he didn't rush. He hovered over me, his forehead against mine, just breathing. "You're shaking," I whispered. "I don't want to hurt you." "You won't." But we both knew we'd already done damage. He slid down, kissed just below my jaw, then the curve of my collarbone. Each movement was slow, deliberate. His hand moved to my thigh, just resting there, not pushing, not demanding. His palm was hot against my skin. I let my legs part just enough. He understood. The weight of him settled over me gradually, his body lowering onto mine, warmth meeting warmth. His chest brushing against my shirt as he pressed closer. There was a moment just before he entered me when we both paused. "I shouldn't be here," he whispered. I nodded. And yet, he eased in slowly. I gasped. Not from pain, but from how full I felt. From how careful he was. His body trembled as he moved deeper, every inch of contact, stealing the air from my lungs. He kissed me again, mouth open, breath shaky. I wrapped my arms around his shoulders, pulling him closer. His rhythm was slow, steady, barely restrained. I could feel the tension in his thighs, the tremble in his arms as he held himself up. The pressure built between us, heat and breath and friction. I arched under him, letting him in deeper. He groaned into my neck. His hand slipped under the curve of my back, lifting me toward him. Our bodies met fully, completely. I felt the catch in his throat when he whispered my name, the way his breath came out in bursts, as he moved harder, then softened again. Every part of him was shaking. Mine too. I clung to him not just out of pleasure, but because something about this felt like breaking and belonging all at once. We didn't speak again. We just moved slowly, painfully aware of each other, of the way our hearts pounded, and our bodies found each other again and again. When it was over, he didn't roll away. He stayed inside me, his chest pressed against mine, his fingers tracing soft circles along my ribs, our breaths tangled. I didn't cry, but I felt it rising, that ache, that guilt, that impossible longing for a version of this where no one got hurt. "I don't want this to ruin everything," he said, barely audible. I ran my hand through his hair. "It already has." He nodded against my shoulder. "I still don't regret it." Neither did I. But regret wasn't the problem. Reality was. I woke before him. He was lying on his side, one arm thrown across my stomach, his face pressed against the pillow. The sheet had slipped low on his back, revealing the curve of his shoulder blade, the faint scar I'd never noticed before just beneath it. He looked peaceful, like he belonged there. And maybe that's what scared me most. Because he didn't. I slipped out from under his arm, slowly, careful not to wake him. My body ached in ways I hadn't expected. My thighs saw skin, still humming from where he'd touched me, held me. I grabbed my robe from the hook and moved through the house, barefoot, every step echoing louder than it should have. The coffee machine felt too loud. The sunlight through the window felt too bright. I pressed my hands flat to the counter, trying to catch my breath. I couldn't stop thinking about it. The way his body trembled, the way he whispered my name like it was fragile, the way I didn't want it to end even when I knew it should have never started. He came into the kitchen 20 minutes later, shirtless, sleepy, rubbing the back of his neck. He didn't say good morning, just stood behind me again, close, not touching, and said, "You okay?" I nodded. "Are you?" He exhaled. "I think so. I don't know." I turned to face him, and the second our eyes met, I saw it, the fear. Not of me, of everything else. My voice was quiet. "We can't keep doing this." He nodded, slow. "I know." But neither of us moved. Instead, we sat at the table again, just like we did that first morning. The same 2 mugs, the same silence, except now every inch of it was loaded with the weight of what we'd done. Again. "I keep waiting to feel the crash," I said. "What crash?" "The one where I hate myself for letting it happen." He didn't look away. "Do you?" "No," I whispered. "And that's what terrifies me." He didn't say anything, but his hand reached out across the table and found mine. We sat like that for too long. Later that day, I left the house. I needed air, movement, a moment to remember who I was outside of this tension-filled house, and the boy-turned-man I was falling into one quiet night at a time. At the grocery store, I ran into someone I hadn't seen in years, an old co-worker, Susan. She asked about my job, if I was seeing anyone, what I was doing in this part of town. I heard myself lie. "Oh, just house-sitting for a friend." Not a whisper about the boy waiting for me in that house, in that bed with my scent still on his hands. I walked out with shaking hands, groceries I didn't need, and a growing sense that I was playing with fire in a house full of gas. When I got back, he was gone. No note, no message, just silence. That night I lay in her bed, my friend's bed, and stared at the ceiling, wondering if he regretted it after all. At 2:14 a.m., I got a message I had to get out of there. I wanted to stay, but I'm losing my mind. I stared at it for a long time before responding. "You don't owe me an explanation." His reply came fast. "That's not true. You deserve one. But I don't know how to give it without making it worse." We didn't speak the next day, but the silence didn't clear anything. It made everything louder. The day after that, I was folding laundry when his name lit up my phone. He'd left something in the attic, he said. A lie. But I told him to come. When he did, I tried not to look at him, tried to keep my voice level. But then I turned around and he was standing there, close, his hand lifted, just barely brushed mine. "Please don't ask me to stay," he said. I wasn't going to. He exhaled. "Good." Then quieter, because I would. We stood like that breath to breath until the silence cracked. He kissed me. Hard, like he hated himself for it. I kissed him back, because I couldn't stop. And when we pulled apart, his forehead pressed to mine, both of us out of breath, he whispered the thing I'd been dreading most. "We can't keep doing this. Someone's going to find out." It wasn't her who found out. It was someone else, someone I hadn't even thought about. Her husband, not Ryan's but Hannah's. Jake. I didn't even know he had come back early from his business trip. He wasn't supposed to be home for another 2 days. But I walked in from the backyard late that afternoon, sun-dazed and still buzzing from the way Ryan had kissed me behind the garage door, only to find Jake sitting at the kitchen island with a beer in his hand and a look on his face that made my stomach turn. He didn't say anything at first, just nodded toward the hallway where Ryan had apparently gone only seconds before me. "I saw him come in," Jake said quietly. "Didn't know he was staying over." I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. He looked at me, eyes narrowed, not angry, not suspicious. Worse. Calm, like someone who'd already put the pieces together. "I always knew there was something about the way he looked at you," he said. I swallowed. "It's not what you think." He shook his head. "Don't insult me." Then more quietly, "Does Hannah know?" I shook my head. "I won't tell her," he said. "It's not mine to tell." I didn't thank him, because it didn't feel like mercy. It felt like a warning. Later that evening, I waited for Ryan to come back from the store. He walked in like nothing had changed, carrying takeout, smiling, until he saw my face. "What is it?" he asked, setting the bags down. "Jake was here." He went still. "What did he say?" "He knows." Ryan sat down hard in the nearest chair, ran both hands through his hair. "What did you tell him?" I didn't have to tell him anything. He stared at the floor. I crossed the room, slowly knelt in front of him. "He's not going to say anything." "Not to Hannah." Ryan looked at me like he wanted to believe that, like some part of him still hoped we could ride this out in secret forever. But then he said, voice low and final, "It doesn't matter, Ryan." He stood, backed away. "It's too close, too much. I can't keep putting you in the middle of this. You're not putting me anywhere. I'm the one who—" No, he cut me off. "I'm the one who should have known better." He turned away, and I felt it like a crack splitting down the middle of something I hadn't realized I'd started to lean on. "So what?" I asked. "You're done." His back was still to me. "I have to be." It wasn't cruel. It wasn't sudden. It was the kind of ending that already existed beneath everything we'd done, waiting to be spoken out loud. The next morning, he didn't come by. The morning after that, I packed my things and left Hannah's house a day early. I texted her to say I'd taken care of everything, that the plants were watered. The cat was fine, the house spotless. She thanked me like she always did. Warm, unknowing. Weeks passed, then a month. I never saw Ryan again. But some nights I still feel it. His breath at my neck, the weight of him behind me, that sound he made when I let him in and didn't ask him to stop. Sometimes I wish I could forget it. But mostly, I don't want to. Because for all the wreckage it left behind that night gave me something I hadn't felt in years. Not attention, not lust. Something quieter. Something that sounded like "I see you." I crossed a line I can't uncross. But for one night, I felt like a woman again.